Yeah, great to see y'all. Thanks for all for coming out. I'm gonna be over here flipping through my slides, so I hope all of you over there are able to hear me. But I'm gonna talk today about because this is the Agentic Engineering Summit. I thought this would be a good time to kind of talk through the big picture of what people are building with agents. So let me just start by asking a few questions. Who here is a developer? Raise your hand. Okay. Now, who here has shipped an agent into production? Okay. So we saw about maybe like 70, 80% of the hands went up first time. Second time, I'd say about 30%. Now, who here has built an agent, but maybe not yet shipped it into production? So it's staging, or you're working on it locally, personally, for some, side project, side hustle, home automation thing. Cool. Okay. Another like 10% of folks. So these are kind of, these are some of the folks that we've seen build agents in TypeScript with Mastra. It's, honestly a group of folks that it's been incredible to talk to kind of like thousands of teams over the last 18 to 20 months and watch what folks have built. And I wanted to kind of distill that here for everyone, which is like, great, okay, agents are amazing. What are people building with agents? And what we really see is that there are three types of agents that people are building. Number one is customer-facing agents. Number two, internal agents. And number three, developer platform agents. And so we're going to talk about each one of these like use cases, right? So customer facing agents. Who here is on a user-facing product team? Okay, about like 30% of folks, right? So, um, a lot of this, there's B2B and B2C. So what we've seen happen over the last like 6 to 12 months is that a lot of the, scale up B2B type companies, they've got a web app, they've got a mobile app, and all of a sudden they want to put an agent inside that app, an assistant to talk to their users. I'll just kind of like walk through it, like why are people doing this? Well, let's say you're a $3 billion HRIS out of Spain, Factorial, and you want your users to be able to do, like LLM analysis of, the data that's in their system, and employee salaries and locations and salary changes and all this stuff, right? Your users certainly want that, but there's two ways they can do this. They can either CSV dump and sort of paste it into ChatGPT, or you could build an agent inside your SaaS to let them do that, and that's exactly what they did with Mastra. And why did they do that? Well, there's really two advantages that you have here. Like one is kind of accuracy. So any sort of an HRIS, like any SaaS, really has a lot of documents, a lot of organizational context that it stores. And the user is never going to be able to like do all the right context engineering, especially non-technical user, dump all the relevant PDFs that they would need into ChatGPT. Maybe it would overflow the context window. Who knows, right? But that's why they built an agent to sort of like be able to search through all the relevant organizational context that's for any given question the user is going to ask, and then and secondly, when the user does ask, it keeps them on platform, right? It keeps folks engaged, whether that's, again, Factorial, like Sanity built like a content agent. It keeps your users sort of like engaged in your software, getting value out of your software. Um, Another type of like customer facing app, we don't necessarily see this as much inside Silicon Valley, right? But like B2C type assistance. So Indeed built a career counselor agent. So what does that do? Well, let's say you're a couple of years out of school, you can log in, you can sort of like, hey, this is my resume, here's what I'm trying to achieve, like where should I go? And then like Indeed is sort of able to take, this information that you've given them, your resume, right? And it's able to take uh, the proprietary data they have as a platform, the salary data, the joblet data, the location data, the career trajectory path data that they have, and they're able to like join those two things together and actually create this like really unique experience that maybe nobody else could have created. So being able to sort of, as a platform, you have all this proprietary data, and like the user is bringing data, and you're able to create these user experiences over proprietary data with agents, and I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to watch folks do this kind of thing. Again, there's two types of challenges we see folks having though, and I want to talk about this a little bit because it's the hard part of getting agents into production. And it's cost optimization and its accuracy. So here are some of the teams, and I'll just kind of put the timelines together. You'll notice that the teams are productionizing for a while. They're working on the agent accuracy, building evals, even before they release to customers. But then they sort of start these rollout programs that happen over the course of weeks or a couple months, even after that, for two reasons really, and it's because um, ev- their evals are never accurate until they have contact with the user. Oh wow, users are asking this kind of question. I didn't anticipate that. Okay, like let's make sure that we're actually accurate on these new types of questions that we didn't anticipate. And oh, by the way, this particular user, they cost me $100 per week to serve, $300 per week to serve, $2,000 per week to serve. And they, you get that kind of data, right? Once you actually start rolling it out to customers. And these sort of early access programs that we see these folks building and launching lets folks improve accuracy while maintaining reasonable costs, or sort of like even ratcheting down their costs for sort of like edge cases that they hadn't considered. But ultimately, some of the folks we see rolling out to production fastest have an unfair advantage, which is that they've built agents before. The guy who sort of led the council health agent deployment using Mastra, he had worked at DeepMind before, so he's like very very familiar with how to build agents. But I think like what that means is that like we're all getting better at this over time, right? So if you have built agents before, if you've gone through the whole life cycle of shipping it into production, you have an unfair advantage. And so maybe for the next agent you build, think about the bigger and better use case that you can build inside your organization. You may actually have knowledge that you don't realize that you're going to like walk through that process 2 or 3 times faster than other people on your team. As long as, and I think this is, this is where we plug Monster a bit, but as long as we don't reinvent the wheel, right? Use a great agent framework in your language of choice. Uh, the teams that we see have, they have features to build, and then they have primitives to build. And if you don't want to spend a lot of time reinventing workflows, the agent loop, memory, tool calling, MCP, and implementing those all, and harnesses. We launched our harness primitive today, which is very exciting. If you don't want to reinvent that all yourself, and it's fun to reinvent, but like it also takes time, use a great agent framework. So internal agents. These tend to be built by like larger institutions. Probably I won't like spend as much time here, but we do see large orgs with hundreds of thousands of employees building agentic search. We do see them doing process type automation with Mastra, like any institution or organization. Just actually maybe by show of hands, who here works at an organization with, let's say, over like 3,000 employees? Okay, so like a few folks, maybe like 5%. But like for these kinds of like organizations, there's just the internal automation type opportunities for building agents tends to be very high, and so we see, a lot of these types of use cases inside these organizations, as well as the agentic search, solving kind of, hey, I have 100,000 people in the org. There are all these like places where their data lives. How do I get access to them? How do I sort of search across them and intelligently find the information I'm looking for? Um, Again, I think not as relevant for this crowd, so not going to like dive too much into it, but into that particular use case. But the last use case I want to highlight is developer platform agents, and so these tend to be built by like platform teams. Here's a couple of folks that we've seen build these. When you're inside the infra side of the stack, you, especially like at organizations at scale, you end up seeing large volumes of sort of like machine feeds of data, like CI logging or security alerts and like this kind of stuff. And so we see a lot of teams that are deep inside the infra stack of their organizations building agentic automations. We saw Workday building, basically an AI SRE for their network operations center. We saw Mongo building essentially ingesting like a lot of their CI logs into an agent and kind of like processing that. AI SREs, I think, underutilized and underappreciated way of doing cool stuff with agents, right? Because you are your own sort of user, right? You're building things for yourself, and so I think that lets you kind of like move faster. We also see people building these sort of internal agent platforms where again, inside these larger orgs, like teams are kind of asking like, hey, how do I, like build agents? Is there like a blessed internal way of building agents? And so they're like internal dev platform teams, Mongos will sort of put like a light wrapper around Mastra. And then like that's like, they call that Sage, and that's their internal agent platform. I think, look, this is the most exciting time that I've seen in my 15 plus years as a technologist. Most exciting time to be here in the Valley, here in SF, building. I think I wasn't this old, but I think this must what it must have felt like to be around in 95, 96, as the internet was taking off. So my hope for everyone today is like, look, go forth, go forth and build agents, right? Wherever you're sitting in your org, like whatever problems your team is working on, or maybe you're starting your own thing, go forth and build agents. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to, create a lot of useful things. So have fun and go build. Thank you.